against Jake Mondello, who can also play. He's very young, but he's got 2 Grand Prix top 8s on the resume. And our players are about to start right now.
You are coming into us right now, not them.
Both 3-0. And now a mountain here for John. Round number 4 underway. Mondello will draw. He'll play a Plains. Black-white versus white-red here. Finkel with a Plains. And he's got a core Blade Whirl. Fortified Rampart here for Mondello. Mondello, player we've seen quite a bit on the Open Series, have some success there. Now he's working his way into the Grand Prix circuit and the Pro Tour circuit. Saw him at Grand Prix Seattle Tacoma last weekend. Played Reanimator there. Core Blade Whirl did get Vigilance from the ally.
And we criticized this card a lot in the match against Brock Parker and Brock Parker's blue-black control deck. Against Finkel, much more aggressive curve. This card should do some good work.
Looks like a Lantern Scout here for Mondello. Pass the turn back over to Finkel. Finkel's deck looks to have a bit of an ally theme over here. And it has a bit of a Gideon theme.
Which is also an ally.
Also
produces
true.
allies.
Yeah.
So combo.
Yeah. So Gideon is going to come onto the battlefield. It is going to start with 4 counters. As you mentioned, it does make allies. It's an ally itself, which is very nice. And here come the beatdowns. Fortified Rampart is going to block. McKinley Patrol is going to come in here for a point of damage. And now we're going to head back over to Mondello, who's got a little rough right now.
When we saw Gideon on camera before against Corey McDuffie, McDuffie had a curve of flyers equipped, and Gideon was basically played on an empty board. Mondello's in a much tougher spot right now. No real way to generate any offense against this Gideon. And Finkel's got other stuff going on.
Well, they both played 4-mana spells.
If you're going to play anything into a Gideon that's not your own copy of Gideon, it might as well be a flyer.
I agree.
This is Mondello's best hope of stabilizing this game over the course of the next couple turns. He may be able to attack down the Gideon. Then he'll have a 2-3 left over, which hopefully will do some work against the 2-2s that Finkel will have.
So Corey Griffin is here. And Gideon is going to go up to 5, which means it's ready to attack.
Oh,
this is a pretty good draw.
It's not a bad curve.
There's a hero of Gamafada. Sure, all the creatures are indestructible and have vigilance and first strike and are attacking. So feel free to block as you'd like, Jake.
All right, I like the wall in front of Gideon. That
Smart,
seems
smart.
That block I like.
Yeah.
Start there.
It looks like the Griffin is going to get in front of the core Blade Whirl.
Indestructible plus first strike. Good combination for making your attacks feel safe.
Yeah.
Hard for this to go too wrong.
Yeah. Mondello with a small red splash deck. You see he's got a mountain in his deck. It's on the battlefield now. Let's see what this play is going to be. It's a Calestra Healer. This is quite the uphill climb that Jake Mondello does have. Looks like the Griffin's going to go towards Gideon, maybe.
The splash here at Mondello's deck is for an Angelic Captain.
Okay.
He also has a Pilgrim's Eye to go get the mountain.
Sure, so kind of a free roll there.
Not quite free. I mean, he's playing 2 mountains, which implies that, you know, it's not exactly free for him, but juice is still probably worth the squeeze.
Mondello does have complete disregard in hand right now, too, so he is trying to fight the good fight. It's not going to be easy, though. A mountain there from Finkel is land number 6. Boy, John's deck is a doozy. He's got a Resolute Blade Master and a Munga Ambush Leader, too. My goodness.
It's a theme deck.
Yeah, a theme of really good cards.
He bought the Ally Precon.
Yeah. The colorless land that he has on the battlefield is a copy of Spawning Bed, by the way. Complete disregard is going to take care of the core Blade Whirl. McKinney Patrol number 2. It's an ally. So there are going to be some triggers here. Vigilance and all that jazz. Also indestructible. And here come the beatdowns. Gideon did move up, by the way. Fortified Rampart is going to jump in front of that.
Gideon moving up is also doing some very good work here for Finkel in terms of insulating his Gideon from getting attacked back in the air.
Yeah.
And attacking with a 5/5 here is not that much worse than generating a 2/2.
So some damage is going to come across here. Follow-up here for John is a Valakut Invoker. And he's empty-handed, but he's got one heck of a board.
And every land's good and every spell's good.
Yep.
He's worked himself in the situation where a spell could be cast and a land contributes towards spawning bed and the Invoker. So great setup here.
It's an enviable situation for the Hall of Famer.
Plus with the Gideon, he's up like $20. So you just really got to like what's going on here.
Here's a Conduit of Ruin. It's going to trigger in search of a card here for Mondello. Mondello thinking Rune Processor.
Things are all not doom and gloom for Mondello. I know that Finkel's starter has been pretty splashy here. It's getting harder for Finkel to make these attacks, and if he wants to make an ally with Gideon, Mondello still has some pretty good blocks on the way back to manage the board, and he can continue to wear down the Gideon with his flyer. If Mondello happens to draw an ally and trigger the Lantern Scout, he comes back for a lot of damage. And his board in terms of power and toughness is a lot better than John's. John has just been very synergistic thus far.
Oh, we'll see what John's draw is. Again, he's empty-handed. Got a beautiful board. Gideon is going to go up to 3. What is this? Okay. Well, now those creatures have double strike. Thanks, Resolute Blade Master.
A fine way to top off this draw.
Well,
That's just perfect. If you're Mondello too, you know, you've worked so hard to kind of maintain everything. It looks like you've actually got a shot to come back in this thing.
Yep.
And then that happens.
I'm working down Gideon. I'm doing pretty good. Nah, well.
My board's big. If I draw an ally, I gain a bunch of life.
Everything has double strike, vigilance, indestructible. So, sure. All right, Jake, you're 3. Back to you. There's the Rune Processor. What's this? It's just going to be Rune Processor. He's going to gain 5 life. Nah, he can't attack. Yeah. There's really no overcoming that draw, Jake. No, you know what? Can't be mad about that one.
Nope.
Sometimes you just get crushed. And that's actually what happened there. John Finkel up a game.
That draw was enough to elicit a smile even out of John.
You don't get that much. Typically all business at the table, but that draw was silly. So we are going to take a look at both decks here, and we are going to start with Finkel, who you saw most of the good stuff there. He's got a Courier Griffin. He's got that Gideon, Hero of Gamafado. We saw Inspire Charge as a pump spell, Core Blade World, some McKinney Patrols. Geez, a Sheer Drop, a Smite the Monstrous, a Stasis Snare. That's a nice card too. The red brings a Stone Waker from Akuum. Nettle Drone, Ondu Champion, Outnumber, Stone Fury, Valakut Invoker, Valakut Predator. I'm looking for a bad card here, Patrick. I'm having a hard time. Munda, Ambush Leader, Resolute Blade Master. How many lands here for John? 7 mountains, a lot of plains, 9 of them. He's got a Spawning Bed and a Looming Spire, so 18 lands. This is a beautiful deck.
John's ally pre-con available at starsofthegames.com.
Yeah.
So I actually don't think the matchup is that horrible for Mondello. I know that Finkel has a lot of power in the deck there, and Gideon, of course, is a disaster if it shows up, but he's pretty good at blocking and gaining life. If he's able to slow the game down, he's got just a lot of 2/3s and 4/5 bodies that are going to be better than Finkel's in combat a good percentage of the time, and he's got a better top end with that package of Rune Processor plus some big stuff. So I don't think it's that hopeless for him, and he wasn't that far away from stabilizing that game. Once Resolute Blade Master came in, it was trivial, but up until that point, I thought Mondello was keeping his head above water. The game was not decided by any stretch.
He was doing a pretty good job, all things considered.
Yeah, he had a plan for wearing down Gideon. He was blocking okay. Now Finkel was going to be able to make his attackers indestructible a bunch, and there was only so much work Jake could do in terms of wearing down his board, but he could have at least kept his life total high. And then he was starting to flip the game around with his large Eldrazi's, but the Blade Master, just too much.
A little too much.
A touch too much.
A great way to top off the curve, as you said. John Finkel up a game here over Jake Mondello. The best Magic player of all time.
Of all time.
Yep.
The greatest. Apologies to Kai Bude, also a phenomenal Magic player. Belongs in the conversation. Gabriel Nassif, Paulo Vitradama de Rosa.
Yep.
A lot of great players to choose from.
Finkel just coming off a Pro Tour top 8. We can't forget about that.
Top 4, I believe.
Top 4, I believe. Yes, is actually correct with the Jeskai Black deck. So.
Which was disappointing for me to watch because I grew up in the I was playing the Pro Tour early 2000s. Finkel was the guy when I was growing up, and he never. I don't recall him losing much on Sundays at all. So when Finkel top 8s but doesn't win the event,
it's weird.
Yeah, it just doesn't sound right.
What happened?
What happened?
Yeah.
Opening riff to a song, comes on, and then the notes are different somewhere in the middle, and it just doesn't hit your ear the right way. It's the same deal.
We're underway here in game number 2. A Plains here for Mondello. A Mountain there for Finkel. A Swamp there for Jake as we head John's way. John has a Plains. Back to Jake we go. He'll play a Swamp past the turn back. Who's going to play the first spell here? Plains. There we go. It's a McKinley Patrol. Given allies vigilance, complete disregard, says kindly leave. Plains here for Mondello. He'll just pass the turn back. Finkel with a Mountain. That's a Vestige of Emrakul. 3/4 Trampler. For Mondello, it's a Kalestra Night Watch. 4/5. You gain life, it gets flying.
And this is not the world's most impressive card, but these are the kind of threats that Mondello has in his deck that I think make the matchup acceptable for him. He is pretty good at blocking, assuming he gets it out of the early game okay, and Finkel hasn't generated too much of an advantage with something like Gideon.
Just some more creatures there from John and Core Blade World McKinley Patrol. Those are allies, of course, which is important. But Jake's got a Conduit of Ruin, and Jake does have big creatures, so that's nice. He'll get to search up something here. Last time we saw Rune Processor. Maybe he's got something else to find.
He can go for Rune Processor and just try to get the biggest body. He also has the option of going for Bane of Balaged, which is worth a lot in terms of cards right now, but it's something that Finkel could block and get off the table. I think he's just going for the largest thing possible.
Yeah, he's going to go get a Rune Processor. So, it's a Plains. And what comes next here for Finkel? This draw clearly not as explosive as the last one.
Not nearly as synergistic, not nearly as powerful.
A Hero of Gamafata is going to give the creatures a Vigilance along with Indestructible.
Some pretty easy blocks, though, for Mondello.
First strike, too.
But his creatures are just bigger. I mean, this is a save attack for Finkel. He gets to make it for free, but it's not worth a lot of damage.
And now there is Outnumber. Taking care of the Conduit. Mondello will draw. Swamp. Rune Processor, gain 5. That also will give a Night Watch flying, but he's going to hang back.
The problem is that the 7/8, the Rune Processor, a couple things can happen here. If Finkel has a removal spell, Mondello doesn't want to take all that damage on the way back. Also, if Finkel has any ally, it's just a freebie for him to attack again. And I think Mondello wants to slow the game down. So even though he could have attacked there, I like him just holding back for at least one more turn.
Courier Griffin's going to come in, gain some life. Jake's doing a nice job of stabilizing here. He's also got Stonehaven Medic.
A combo with things that ask you if you've gained life or not.
Yeah, you're right.
That's the black-white archetype.
Yeah, it is a life gain deck.
It's life gain.
And now Mondello's going to try to go on the offensive. He's got some big bodies out there on defense. Now he wants to try to close this game out. And he's got life to be gained. Finkel with 6 mana. Looks like an Awoken Sheer Drop. Plains is now a 3/3. Finkel will just pass the turn back. Over to Mondello. Plains the draw. I believe last card hand for Jake is Gideon's Reproach, I believe. Oh, I take it back. It's something better than that.
Angel of Renewal gains life.
Life gain deck.
Life gain deck.
Now, I think more importantly here, though, 4/4 flyer.
Yeah, because Mondello doesn't want to sit on his heels all day here. The issue with trying to spend the whole game blocking is any ally allows Finkel to just attack for free. It's a free alpha strike, so he's got to pressure him a little bit. Can't attack 2 at a time.
Stonehaven Medic is going to gain a life as you saw Finkel play a Valakut Invoker. And John with only 6 lands on the battlefield, however, so he's a little ways away from activating that thing. And now Mondello's coming to the red zone with flyers again. Mondello's got to follow up. It's goes like Chandler, pass the turn back. And you said it right at the top. You know, he's got big creatures.
He gains life. He blocks well. I think he's got more evasion on balance than Finkel does. Finkel has a lot of raw power and a lot of synergy, but if Mondello can get to this stage of the game, even something like Gideon now just doesn't really matter.
Yeah. There's how to do champion. It's going to give stuff trample. So you got trample, first strike, vigilance, indestructible. Get in there, everybody. Now remember, Mondello's at 30, so he can use his life total as a resource here. See what kind of blocks he wants to make.
And based on what Finkel's done the last couple turns, I also think that Mondello's assuming the last card in his hand is nothing of note. So we can just make the blocks that look good face up on the table. He doesn't need to try to get fancy here.
He'll take a healthy amount of damage, but again, he's at 30, so he's got a lot of life to work with. Finkel does have a trick here, it appears.
Tandem Tactics, I believe, is the one.
That is.
Finkel with a little life gain strategy of his own.
Up to 2 target creatures get +1, +2 until end of turn, and you gain 2 life. But that was his last card. He's empty-handed, and Mondello falls down to 19. Finkel goes up to 10.
But still a 2-turn clock here from Mondello in the air.
Yeah.
He's got 6 this turn and then 6 next turn.
And I'd be a little surprised if Mondello were to die the next turn. So he's going to come across here for 6, put Finkel down to 4. 5 mana here from Mondello. Make it 7. He's just going to pass the turn back.
So I think Mondello's last card in hand is Rising Miasma.
Okay.
And I believe he just doesn't want to show it.
Yeah, a little bluff there, but also just don't want to show it.
That's the thing.
Yeah.
I think that he's got Finkel covered in the air most likely, and he does not want to show that kind of sweeper.
Yeah, because that can really catch him off guard.
It's not going to be good against Finkel all the time. Finkel has a reasonable amount of 3 toughness and so forth, but no reason to show it because it does change the way how the matchup gets played.
Jake Mondello able to tie things up against John Finkel. Black, white, white, red, getting ready here for game number 3. Not an explosive draw there for Finkel in game number 2, but I would be scared if I was Jake Mondello.
He's going to be on the draw here, and we saw what Finkel did in the first game. But that first game and that second game, that's got to feel pretty good if you're Mondello. You took his best punch in game 1. It's hard to imagine Finkel produces a draw much better than that one. And until the Blade Master showed up, it looked like Mondello was on a course to stabilize the game.
Yeah.
Game 2, a lot of the best cards for Finkel showed up again. No Gideon this time, but still a very healthy curve of allies backed up by some tricks and removal. And Mondello was really never at any risk of losing that game. He had firm control of it the whole time. So you're always scared you're on the draw, and Finkel's deck has some really powerful synergistic draws, but you got to feel pretty good about the matchup given the quality of Finkel's deck.
Well, these players will get ready here for game number 3. You saw Finkel and his Gideon, his Resolute Blade Master, and he's just a very nice white-red allies deck that can give the beatdowns. Doesn't look like any bad cards going on here for John. Mondello's deck, though, that black-white life gain deck, a popular archetype in this format, looks pretty good as well.
It's a little low on power. His top end's fine. He does have some Eldrazi, so he's not necessarily beat if the game gets to that stage. But Mondello's deck seems very good for chewing up aggressive decks. He's just got a lot of life gain, good size, a lot of evasion. It's a good recipe for fighting aggressive decks.
Well, you have to imagine John's going to play first here. His deck is pretty aggressive. It does feel like a play first deck. Not out of the question that he draws, but I think we'll see him play first.
I don't know if Finkel can afford to get beat to the board. I think he does have to take the play here because, if Mondello gets out in front of him early, as we saw, his deck produces a lot of size for 5 and 6 mana, and Finkel might not be able to be in a position to attack even if he has his synergistic mix of allies.
Well, as game 3 is about to begin here between John Finkel and Jake Mondello, if you are just joining us, Cedric Phillips, Patrick Sullivan, along with Nick Miller, Ken Crocker, and the rest of the SCG Live crew. We are bringing you Grand Prix Atlanta, hosted by StarCityGames.com at SCG Live, hashtag GPATL for your tweets all weekend long. Since the beginning of round number 5, we'll be taking and answering as many questions as we can from you guys at home, as we'd love to interact with you during our broadcast of 9 rounds today. 2 booster drafts and 6 rounds tomorrow before we cut to a top 8, do 1 more booster draft, and eventually someone's walking out of here with a whole bunch of money, some pro points, and a little trophy action.
A lot of invites to the Pro Tour being given out this weekend.
Absolutely. A Plains here for Finkel to start game 3. A Plains for Mondello. He'll mimic that play. Over to Finkel we go. Nettle drone the draw. He'll play a Plains. He'll pass the turn back over to Mondello, who's drawn a Plains. He'll play a Swamp. And now there is a Stonehaven Medic. Finkel will draw. He's got a Mountain. He's got a Nettle drone. He'll pass the turn back over to Mondello. Mondello will draw. It's time to go searching with Pilgrim's Eye. They'll get a Plains. Notable that Jake did not search with the Mountain there.
It's possible in a matchup this fast that he's cut out the red.
Okay.
I would strongly consider Angelic Captain's a great card. And it's possible Mondello just has the Mountain in his hand already. But in fast matchups in Seal deck, often the way I sideboard is cut the splash color and just try to become a 2-color deck because you can't afford to stumble.
Mondello also willingly searching up a 3rd Plains as opposed to a 2nd Swamp. Just kind of things to keep in mind here as we make our way through this game. Finkel with the McKinley Patrol. Pass that turn back. Over to Mondello, who will draw. Picked up a Swamp for the turn. There is that 3rd Plains. Just has to pass the turn back. Finkel will shoot Mondello with that Nettle drone. And we go back John's way. Note that John did not play a 4th land there. Actually, it was only his 4th turn.
Yeah, he's down a
He
land
missed
drop.
it. Yep. And there's Looming Spires. I'll target Nettle drone. Looks like it might be time for some beatdowns with both creatures.
It's a safe tack on the board. There's nothing to do with the 4-2. And if Mondello wants to double block the 2-2, Finkel can still kill the Pilgrim's Eye at least.
Yep.
To say nothing of the possibility of Finkel just having a trick here. So it's a safe alpha strike.
John in his 2nd main phase. They're playing Akum Stonewaker. Mondello going to gain life quickly on tap and draw. There's a Swamp. Just going to pass the turn back. Gotta wonder what's going on in Jake's hand. Finkel will draw. He's found another land. That's land number 5. It's a Plains. What's the follow-up here for John? It is Munda, the ambush leader. That's going to trigger. Take a look at the top 4 cards of your library. If you do, reveal any number of allied cards from among them, then put those cards on top of your library in any order, and the rest on the bottom. Looks like all 4 head to the bottom there for Finkel. He's going to come in here with Munda and the McKinley Patrol. The Stonehaven Medic will block the patrol. The damage from Munda will come through. Mondello's going to gain a life, go back up to 14, it appears, as he'll draw. There's Swamp. And now there's Conduit of Ruin. Trigger. Time for Jake to search. It's been Rune Processor every time.
He's trying to get the biggest thing into play.
Yep. We saw this be very effective for him game 2 and almost be effective game 1.
Yeah, he was, again, very close to turning around the first game.
Yeah.
Though I don't believe anything's been processed at this point.
Not
so
yet.
We're looking at just a 7-8, but a 7-8 is still a lot bigger than anything John has in play.
There's a Mountain for Finkel. That's land 6. He had some slight mana troubles, but appears to be done with that. 6 mana. Oblivion Sower. So Ruin Processor is gone. There's a Plains. John will get that. Wants to see what's been exiled. But now Jake's plan of getting Rune Processor on the battlefield, that's out of the question. So he'll draw.
Though I think Finkel may have missed a trigger on the Nettle drone. I'm not sure if that was pointed to ahead of time.
Sure. Well, there's the Beta Balagad. Our first time seeing that this weekend.
A lot of people consider this, along with a Breaker of Armies, to be the best non-rare Eldrazi's. These are the game winners you're looking for.
Sure.
Nothing wrong with Rune Processor and some of the other ones, but these have the most impact on the board.
7/5 it attacks defending player. That'll be John Finkel if the Bane of Balagad does attack. Exiles 2 permanents that he would control. So Finkel would smite the monstrous.
Good turn.
Yeah.
I was about to say, it was starting to look like the first person to come up with a removal spell here was going to have a huge edge, and Finkel came up with 2 of them.
Yeah. Stasis Snare as well. That's a big deal. Heck of a turn. Now Finkel gets to come into the red zone here. Both Eldrazi gone. Finkel with just a mountain left in hand. Oblivion, so we're thinking about coming into the red zone.
Well, I think the Sower is definitely coming in. It's just a question of anything else. With Finkel tapped out here, it's safe for Mondello to offer up some double blocks and triple blocks on the smaller threats. And I think John would just prefer to keep Munda in play.
Yep.
There's no reason to push right now.
Looks like Mondello's going to take that damage. He'll untap and draw. He had a nice board, but it's gone now. Jake with at least a swamp in hand and a plane. He's going to play the planes. Looks like a copy of Demon's Grasp in hand.
Not an answer to the Sower.
Nope.
And that's the major problem right now.
There's Demon's Grasp to take care of Munda, however. That's got to bite the dust, so -5 will take care of it. That'll Jono shoot you. And now we're head back Finkel's way. Mondello falls down to 6. Finkel with the mountain. See how the draw step is. Remember, Gideon is looming in that deck. We saw it game 1. Didn't see it game 2. Have yet to see it in game 3.
John's still in a very good position here. Just he's in lands and spells territory again, as we've seen before. The Stone Waker does a lot of work here. The 3/1 is a viable attacker, and Finkel's got other stuff going on in play.
Looks like Finkel coming into the red zone with a few creatures here. The Sower and the 3/1. As you mentioned, he's in lands and spells territory are all good. Mondello going to do some blocking here. Looks like Jake doesn't want to take any damage. And Circling Fissure is the card.
And that card came in for this matchup.
Yep.
Jake is not playing a game 1, but again, for an aggressive matchup, you can see he cut the 3rd color. He brought in some fogs. I like this kind of sideboarding.
Mondello with just a land before passing the turn back very quickly. Finkel again in that enviable situation where lands will turn on the Stone Waker and spells can just be cast. Here's 3 mana. Another McKinley Patrol. Mondello does a little bit of blocking there. There's an Eldrazi Scion left over. It's a Carrier Thrall that was on blocking duty. Mondello with just a swamp past the turn back. Going to be able to gain a little bit of life with that Stonehaven medic, but Nettle Drones is going to kind of undo that.
Yep.
So not really getting anywhere.
And Mondello's creatures are so small now that John can actually start attacking with some of the second tier of his threats here, start wearing down Mondello's board. And I think we're not that far away from Finkel being able to alpha strike for the win.
The tough thing here for Jake is that if John doesn't play a land pre-combat, that means that he drew a spell.
Yeah.
Because if he drew a land, he would just play an activate the Stonewaker. So that means that you know, okay, well, a spell's coming. And it's Nadu Greatheart. And Jake is going to extend the hand as he's drawn 2 more planes, and he cannot get out of this situation. John Finkel going to win this match over Jake Mondello, 2-1. His white-red deck is a thing of beauty, and this is a dangerous deck for him to have against other players. This is going to be maybe, I don't want to say it's going to guarantee 9-0, but he's got a heck of a deck, my friend.
Well,